Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really cool challenge. How do you take a story as deep and as huge as Christmas and make it simple? Not just simple, but powerful. We're not just talking about the holiday, we're talking about the incredible art of telling a big story in a way that really clicks. You've probably asked yourself this, right? Whether you're trying to explain it to a kid or just trying to get your own head around it. We've got the presents, the songs, the traditions, we know all that stuff. But how do you get past all that to the real heart of it, the why? It's actually a lot harder than it sounds. And this slide just lays out the problem perfectly. On the left, you've got the Christmas we all see. The gifts, Santa, a birthday party. It's fun, it's familiar, but it's kind of surface level. But then you look at the right, and wow, a rescue mission, a promise that's centuries old, an unbelievable act of humility? Those are huge ideas. So how in the world do you connect the two? How do you make those massive concepts on the right feel as real as the wrapping paper on the left?
Well, that's what we're going to break down today. We're looking at a guide that does this masterfully, and its secret weapon is this incredibly smart but simple method. It takes one core idea from the Bible, and then, this is the magic part, it pairs it with a powerful, simple analogy, a little story that totally unlocks the deeper meaning. Let's see how it's done. Okay, first up, the guide goes straight for the trickiest part. The whole idea of sin and why humanity would even need a savior. It frames this whole thing as the rescue captain's mission. So the method always starts here, by anchoring the lesson in one single, laser-focused verse. No long, complicated passages, just this clear line from Matthew that spells out the mission. Jesus came to save people from their sins. Okay, but what does that actually mean in a way we can understand? See, this mission is based on a theological concept that sounds, let's be honest, pretty heavy and intimidating. Total depravity. But the guide just cuts right through the jargon. All this really means is that we're in a mess we can't get ourselves out of. We need help from the outside. But even that still feels a little abstract, doesn't it? Yeah, how do you take that idea of needing help and make it feel real, make it tangible, especially if you're talking to someone young? A definition just isn't going to cut it. You need a story. And boom, here is the guide's brilliant move. It asks you to imagine you're drowning in deep water, way over your head. That's the problem. You can't swim, you can't touch the bottom, you cannot save yourself. That's the hard reality. So what do you need? You need a rescuer. And the guide paints Jesus as this ultimate rescue captain, the one who shows up to pull you out of a situation you could never escape on your own. All of a sudden, that heavy doctrine becomes a clear, urgent, and very personal story about being rescued. So that covers the why of the rescue mission. The next piece of the puzzle is all about the how, the totally unexpected way Jesus arrived. It's all about communicating this profound idea of God's humility. The guide calls this part, the king in a manger. And check this out. Again, the guide zeroes in on one single unforgettable image from the story. Not the angels, not the spectacular star, but the baby, lying in a manger, an animal's feeding box. That one tiny detail is the key that unlocks this huge idea. And just look at this contrast. It's so stark. We all have a picture in our heads of where a king is born, right? In a palace, silk sheets, the whole deal. But this king? His first bed was hay in a feed box. This comparison doesn't just tell you about humility. It makes you feel that shocking upside-down difference. And here's the why. Why come in such a humble way? The guide connects it to something deeply personal. He did it to show he wasn't some distant king in a castle. He came to be a close friend to everyone, especially the people who felt small or poor or forgotten. That manger wasn't an accident, it was the message. All right, the third strategy zooms way out. It shows us that the Christmas story wasn't just a random event. No, it was the grand finale of a much, much longer story, all about God's faithfulness over centuries. It's called A Promise Kept. Now this connects to another one of those big, fancy-sounding ideas, covenant theology. But once again, the guide makes it so simple. It just means that Christmas wasn't plan B. It was the fulfillment of a promise, a divine plan that God set in motion hundreds and hundreds of years before. And look at how this simple timeline just makes it all click. Over on the left, you've got this prophecy from Isaiah, way back around 700 BC, promising a child would be born. And then on the right, 7 centuries later, it happens. Jesus arrives. This turns an abstract idea about a covenant into a concrete, historical reality. A specific promise was made, and then that promise was kept perfectly. And to make that long history feel personal and real, the guy brings in another beautiful, simple analogy. It's like when a parent promises their kid a really special gift. You know that feeling of waiting, of excitement, and then the pure joy when they actually come through and keep that promise? That's the feeling. It's all about trust, faithfulness, and the joy of a promise fulfilled.
So we've got a rescue captain, a humble king, and a promise kept. How does the guide wrap this all up? It uses one last, incredibly powerful metaphor that ties the whole story together: the master key.
So, the analogy asks us to picture this. We're all locked inside a room, and that room represents the problem from the very beginning. Remember the deep water? It's that situation we just can't get out of on our own. We're stuck. The door is locked tight from the outside. We can't kick it down, we can't pick the lock. We're totally helpless in there. So, how do you open the door? The answer is just so beautifully simple. Jesus is the master key. He's the only one who fits the lock. He's the only one who can open that door from the outside and set us free. It's such a powerful final image that just pulls everything we've talked about together.
So when you step back, you see the real genius here is the method itself. It's like a storyteller's toolkit. Got a complex problem like sin? Here's a rescue captain. A profound idea like humility? Use the story of a humble king. Trying to explain deep history? Talk about a kept promise. And for the ultimate solution, the master key. Each simple story is a key, perfectly designed to unlock one of these big ideas.
And that really leaves us with this final thought, right? This technique, pairing a deep truth with a simple analogy, it's not just for talking about Christmas. It's a masterclass in communication for anything. So think about it. In your own life, at work, with your family, what's a big, complicated idea that you need to share? And what simple story, what little analogy could you tell to finally unlock it for someone?